I am good with it, yes. Excellent. I guess I should do that so I can go share it real quick. So what happened with like was it we were playing like wrong music or whatever and that's what we got kind of like dinged on? Ah, gotcha. That makes sense. I did not know that. But it makes sense. Okay. And I'll just be like and it's kind of like house music. Yeah, sure. I just got the old. I'm still old schooling it with a USB plug-in. Yeah, I'm still good. I just wanted to make sure I shared it to my Facebook so that way people can. What's up? What's up, everybody? Hopefully, everybody's enjoying some nice weather or bad weather, depending where you're at. What's up, everybody? Hopefully, everybody's enjoying some weather. Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. A lot of they did change. We're in. I think we're at stage 3 now of Indiana's back on track program. I don't know what state what state you guys are in Michigan, but so basically most of everything's all opened up with social distancing. Restaurants are you can now dine inside at 50% capacity. Malls are open. Still haven't been to the mall yet. Probably won't go. Um, but things are like slowly opening up. But I'm sure that I don't know. I have mixed opinions about it, but you know what? We're here to not talk about. Well, we'll talk viruses at some point today, but not different kinds of viruses. And yeah, I guess we should start off maybe saying what exactly is a demon. Because some people who are new to the thing may not know what a demon is. So, well, now again, I got all my information from Wikipedia. I'm not gonna, I did some research, so I gotta, cite my sources. because we don't want to get in trouble for that. But demons are actually immaterial. No matter what they are immaterial. Even though you'll see them on the battlefield, they actually only take shape from their masters. Their masters grant them the shapes that what they are. A demon is part of a chaos god. So basically, he summons up his will and creates this figure, which could be a nurgling, could be a demonette, based on whatever gods. But basically, the chaos god gives power, which gives them the shape into once the rift is opened up and demonic legions come out. But basically, a demon is immaterial. Basically, demons are immaterial beings that are given shape by their chaos gods. So if you're on the battlefield and you kill one, you can't loot the body, because once you shoot it with your shooter or your grenade or your las cannon, it just disappears. There's no body. There's nothing left, and it returns back to the warp. And for a little bit of side trivia, for those, if there's a Warhammer 40k trivia contest, according to legends, that a demon cannot reappear for 1,000 years and 1 day.
Interesting. And it kind of leads into the idea of, I don't know, 40k lore being, I don't know, incomprehensible at best sometimes. Going back all the way to like first edition, where the warp itself, like, time doesn't exist in the warp, right? It's kind of always been there, but there's stories of chaos legions. They were talking to one of the chaos legions in a Horus Heresy book, and different chaos space marines in that legion have experienced time differently when they were in the warp. They say that some were in the warp for tens of days, and some were in there for hundreds and thousands of years to themselves before they reemerged to fight again. Like, and that makes it crazy to think that not only is there a material plane, kind of like what we exist on with ourselves, that very much sees time in a straight line, and time and events and things happen and time passes. I mean, the game is called Warhammer 40k. It's based on 40,000 years of linear time. And then they have this whole, like, nega universe where time doesn't matter.
Right. It could be, a battle could be 10 days, you could do 10 days, but you may only, if a demon unit may have just been summoned that day, or to them, it's only just been their master's been like, oh, I'm just going to create some nurglings right now, and who knows how long they've been there. They may have just got to the battlefield, or they may have been traveling through a warp rift for a few hours.
So, how long, like, when did the Chaos Gods get formed? Like, did they start, like, when did this all happen?
Ooh, you know what? I didn't get that part of my 34 pages I printed out.
Okay, so I'll get you back on this one. So the Chaos Gods, actually, there is, and it's only reason I know this is because it's part of the Eldar, like, backstory. The Chaos Gods were formed when the Old Ones were formed, but they were asleep. They were asleep, and they did not have I don't know, physical form or whatever you would. They were powerless to manifest into our reality until it was said somewhere along the, like, medieval times of humanity. So through the whole, War of the Stars, black metal with the Necrotyr, or black stone with the Necrotyr, and Eldar, and Kronks, which become the Orcs. And then the fall of the Old Ones. The Chaos Gods are kind of around and watching, but not dealing with anything. And then, basically, with the fall of the Eldar and making a Chaos God, essentially, the Ezrai makes Slaanesh, and we can touch base on how that happens later, but and with the birth of the Emperor, the Emperor's power coming into the materia plane draws them in like a beacon to, oh, there's something cool to mess with over here, and the chaos gods awaken them. Or they say awaken in the lore, but it doesn't really say what that means. But that's
Gotcha.
the kind of start of
That's
it.
this is the beginning of their legions of their. And what there was a bunch of, what was it, Great Awakenings or warp. There was a lot of significant warp rifts, I believe, as well, that were like common warp rifts throughout time. We
Yeah.
had a.
Did you find any information on like what a warp rift is for people that aren't familiar with that?
Yeah, actually, I did, and I actually found it in the book. So, all right, so it's actually the where I had it highlighted here. Okay, yeah, there we go. So in the creation of warp, so basically it's create. So you have what's called the Great Lull, which is I guess in year M15 to M25.
So yeah, like
Whatever.
early on in humanity, essentially.
Yeah, whatever that means. So the creation of warp drive, and I'm gonna go right from the standard for the demon book. The creation of warp drive and standard template of technology, along with the emergence of the first navigators, heralds started the herald of the golden age of discovery, in which humanity spreads outward from Terra, colonizes and starts warp space. Although little understood, is entirely essential to mankind's ascendancy. So basically, then you're going. So it's a little bit. Then M25 to M30, you have the awakening, and it's basically your warp storms are basically created from pockets. Like if you've seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, it's warps are created from pockets of space colliding and tearing a fragment in tearing a fragment. I guess I'm tearing a fragment in space. So that's what's causing these great rifts. Is like I'm gonna just it's space and time colliding, creating a giant rift.
Yeah, yeah. So like, um, in very simplest terms, and there's going to be a lot of physicists probably in the comment section that's going to tear me a new one for this. But if we could wrap our heads around the idea of the material plane and everything in the universe being like a flat sheet, a warp storm would be like someone poking a hole in that sheet and letting the other side, or the chaos warp side, into the world. And the Geller field, or the warp field that the plane or the spaceships that the human race use to navigate space-time, to move faster than the speed of light, they actually pop out of the material plane into the warp, travel through the warp, because warp doesn't have any sense of time. They're able to travel huge distances in no time, and then pop back into real space as if they had almost never left. Now, you had mentioned earlier an important part of this warp and navigation is the navigators. Did you get any information on what those people are, or I know we're kind of going into like Imperium lore, but
Yeah, that's okay because but that's okay. It just pretty much I didn't really get to the navigators part, so I'm kind of like trying to squeeze real quick to see if I can see anything on it.
you're good. The navigators are actually the very first astropaths, so they can see warp energy, or they feel warp signatures, and the beacon, or the emperor, who's the strongest warp signature, and it's how they map the universe. So when they're in the warp, they can still feel the Emperor's light, or the psychic power of the Emperor, and they use that light, or that beacon, to map where they are. And of course, this goes wrong 100,000 million times, but that's part of the real scare, especially in 9th edition, where if anything happens to the Emperor, basically the whole space travel net and everything the Imperium knows about what space travel is goes out the window because they don't have their 000 coordinate that everything's based on.
That's kind of like the if we ever saw the movie Wing Commander where they use the Navcom AI to jump between points. I guess that would be kind of like, I know it's a horrible movie, but it's kind of on the same principle that they needed guidance from somewhere to be able to jump to different spots in the universe.
Yeah, yeah. And then it even becomes more of a wrinkle when you get the whole time thing involved because not that I necessarily enjoy that part of 40k lore. Um, there's a lot that can be messed with when you have an entire existence of your lore that is based not within a time stream. But if I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on right now, this is a personal theory, not a canonical theory at all. Have John, have you ever seen the TV show Futurama?
Yes, I have seen it with Bender and
Yeah. So there's an episode where they realize they get in a time machine, but the time machine can only go forward in time, and they realize that time is cyclical, so they can go forward far enough in time for the whole universe to collapse in on itself, another big bang, another planet, another Earth, another and they keep going forward until the exact point in time in which they left, like rehappens.
so it's kind of like time is like a time loop.
Like a time loop. So my theory is that the since time doesn't exist in the warp, they're actually viewing the linear time of the world through a time loop. So
Oh wow.
that's why some people and some chaos demons they think, and that's why even in the chaos books they're like chaos has always been there because from the theory of the linear time that the human beings are existing right now they have, but the chaos is actually like, since there is no time, they have seen all of the beginning and the end loop back to itself. If
Interesting.
that the
That's
tinfoil theory, and that's why some Chaos Space Marines can when they're in the warp, they see millions and millions of years go by, and some see no time at all because just based on their perception, it's how far through the loop they've gotten. But
which would kind of
yeah,
which would kind of like make sense for the warp time spell in the game.
yeah, they're actually like manipulating the time stream, but uh, there's no canonical like there's no canonical evidence of any of the stuff. There's just a lot of really interesting and fun books, but uh, it is an interesting thought of that could explain a little bit of the interactions between the warp and then the materia.
That's awesome.
But
So that's. I mean, you think about this, and it's like, we perceive, like you said before, we're in a straight timeline. We can't obviously go backwards, but going forward to go backwards is actually kind of really weird. But you think about it though, like, is there, people believe, you have your people that believe in ghosts and specters and demons and stuff, like, you get those people, but are they out there? I don't know. Maybe there is. We can't see it. We're not attuned to it. So maybe there could be rifts in the timeline somewhere. And we just don't know it as even being humans ourselves.
yeah, yeah, and that would be why, like, even in ninth edition with this, it's called the Psychic
Psychic
Awakening.
awakening.
Now that's a big issue for 40k lore and for people that live in the material, like especially when it comes to the warp. Uh, Basically, like people that are watching the stream right now can see the giant tear through the center of the known universe of chaos, and if the tear gets big enough, you're essentially going to have a time either. So one of two things could, I don't know, tinfoil hat happen. You could introduce time and the concept of time to the immaterium plane. So like chaos could actually die. Like a chaos god could actually get the influence of time. You'll have too much bleed from the material plane into the immaterium, or what they're afraid of is the opposite. Stuff's going to come out of chaos, and then you'll
Be
essentially
overran.
you'll be overran because these
Yes.
beings that you could touch on in a second, they have full control over this chaos plane. They are of themselves gods of this plane, and if their reach can get into the material plane, they could make humanity not exist by willing it, essentially. But I talked a lot. I put my tinfoil hat on. I'm gonna get some water from how dry all that information was. But, with all of that
It's
going
actually good.
on,
It's good information though, because you know what people need to know. People need to know.
people need to know. This is why we do this show, man. Is try
Right.
to get all this information out to people. The chemtrails, but chaos gods. You had the information on that. Uh,
I did.
how many are they? For people that don't know 40K at all, what are the chaos gods?
Well, the Chaos Gods are there are 4 realms of chaos. There's your realm of Corn, which is your realm where it's about war and destruction and blood and taker of souls and just war and just war, all out violence. And then there's your realm of Nurgle, which is a realm of pestilent, pox-ridden diseases spreading filth through the entire land. Nurgle's main goal is to spread corruption and filth through the entire universe, just seeding each planet with diseases and epidemics. Kind of, but that's what they view death as we view life. They view death as their life. So what they see as death and decay and rot, they see as what you see as being life and beautiful. So where we see like flowers blooming and very beautiful flowers, they would find that revolting, and then they would find something like a dead carcass or disease-ridden animals as a blessing from their Nurgle. And then there's the realm of Tzeentch, which we don't know. It changes every time because the realm of Tzeentch changes all the time. It is fluxed with magical waves, magical vortexes. The Crystal Labyrinth is a labyrinth that changes every time. And that's what Tzeentch does. You don't know what they're doing. One minute they could be doing this. The next minute they could be doing that. They are the most sorcerous of the four chaos realms. However, their plans change all the time. Everything changes. Their names change all the time. This greater demon of Tzeentch may be named this, but you know what? Tomorrow he's going to just change his name because that's the way they work. And then there's the realm of Slaanesh, which is the realm of pleasure, torment, yet ecstasy, and so basically it's your pleasure and pain, where they get their enjoyment off of pleasuring you, but at the same time causing pain to you. Your pain is their pleasure. They like to torment you. They may not kill you. They may not take you. They might take you as a slave and just want to torture you. But everything in the 4 realms of chaos has significance. They're all tied to specific numbers, specific units, specific legions, specific demons are all, and they're actually, the demons war a lot between themselves. Don't think that they're all in collusion together. There is plenty of demons that are at war with each other because Corn is the realm of war and just skulls and death. The antithesis of that is Slaanesh, where they want to bring you pleasure and yet bring you pain. So those two factions like to just war amongst each other. While on the other side of the coin, you have Tzeentch, which is like the changer of ways, and they like to change their plans. Things will mutate. While Nurgle will just despises change, and that where they just want to rot and just form one massive disease. So these chaos realms, even though they are naturally all evil against the Imperium, are also warring against themselves because they all want more power. They all want
Do you know why Nurgle and Tzeentch hate each other? I actually know this story in the lore.
I don't know the actual story of it.
Okay, so back when there's only because there's only 3 gods at first, and then we could talk about Slaanesh coming up later. But back when, so all of Tzeentch, everything that was known as Tzeentch, the whole realm was one being. It was Tzeentch at one time, and he was magic. There was no magic in the whole plane, materium or immaterium, other than Tzeentch. And Nurgle, being the grandfather, the Papa Nurgle, he takes a very big interest in his followers, and he's seen, just like you said, the pestilence guy. He sees Tzeentch as being too tricksy and too powerful, and if left alone, how it is, he will beat both Khorne and Nurgle. So what he does is he tricks Khorne, who is one being at this time too, into climbing the Silver Tower, which is the building that Tzeentch as one being was in, and pushing Tzeentch off of the Silver Tower.
Oh,
and then
wow.
it said that when Tzeentch impacted the ground, he exploded, and his essence and magic went everywhere. As in, magic is in everything. That's why Psykers are able to cast spells and all of his beings and the stuff that he touches. But Tzeentch has never forgiven
Nurgle.
for doing that, and so there's an internal hatred there, and he cursed Khorne for pushing him off of the tower, so Khorne will never be able to cast spells. His magic will never touch Khorne, because him and his beings were up at the top of the tower pushing him when the magic, when he hit the ground, exploded and went everywhere else. So
Damn.
it explains a little bit of the background lore of Khorne, why he hates magic, and the collar that was put on him that is a not anti-magic collar, and why he's somewhat seen as like the hound dog that will go and attack Tzeentch for other people, and why Nurgle and Tzeentch are always butting heads, because Papa Nurgle, or grandfather Nurgle, the pestilence lord, is always trying to keep Tzeentch, the magic guy, in line, in check.
That I did not know the full story. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's an interesting little tidbit. That's out of the Gen 1 codexes.
Oh wow.
First edition.
You're talking like the softback codexes before.
Yeah, real old. We're going way back. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to.
No. That's great. No, people need to know why. Because there are people that play the game that know that Khorne hates. You'd think Khorne would hate Tzeentch because they anti-magic and magic, but Khorne actually hates Slaanesh. So that's actually good to know that for those people that understood why they still don't like each other. They'll side with each other, but they don't like with each other.
Yeah, and
so
the doctor does put more out there, but did you know why Slaanesh is the god of excess and debauchery?
The only one I'm thinking about is because it's the youngest. He's the youngest of the 4 gods. I do know, and maybe because he was created from the Eldar.
Oh, yeah, so it actually goes almost that exactly. It goes to how he was created. So he is the god of excess and debauchery because the old ones created the Eldar. They gave them the psychic powers needed to create the webway and to fight the Necrons. Now, when the Necrons went to sleep and there was no longer Necrons to fight, they basically are these psychically attuned race, and the only ones other than the orcs in all of the Imperium, they're technologically advanced, they created the webways, and they don't die from age. So what they do is they basically go like Greco-Roman orgy party for hundreds and thousands of years, and they don't die. They lust after each other, and they do all this debaucherous stuff. But because they're so psychically attuned, they created in mass, as their race grew, enough psychic debaucherous power to create the Chaos God Slaanesh. And that's also part of the reason why the Dark Eldar, they didn't want to give that up. They didn't want to give debauchery and causing pain and causing
torture
up in order to get rid of the. Oh, maybe I'm. Maybe I'm a little quiet. One sec.
No, I think
Oh,
you're fine.
okay.
Oh.
So there you go. I'm turning myself up a little bit. You're good. Hey Archon, how's it going? But yeah, they where was that? The Eldar before they split created Slanesh. Oh, thanks for following, Archon. It's okay, Nick. I turned it up a little bit, but I'll see how that goes. Um, Let's see if I can just a little more in all of that. Okay, so and then the Dark Eldar didn't want to give it up, so they basically took their home world of Kamarag and they took it into a pocket dimension. They are the epitome of this. Fuck this shit, I'm out. And then they just like took their whole planet and just pieced, and that's why they're the like weird space pirates that jump in and out of dimensions and steal stuff. But they're also they can't feel anything themselves anymore, or else they're afraid that they'll get Slanesh to know where their pocket dimension is. And that's another reason why the ninth edition could be so big, is because of this whole Yanari mess. Is that Slanesh is actually finding Kamarag. She's going into the Eldar libraries, the Black Libraries, and she's trying to find where the Dark Eldar stay, so that she can break into their world where all the Dark Eldar are and eat all of them, collect all their souls.
Maybe Azrael Vect will return.
Yeah, so that's the whole. We can get into Phoenix Lords and all that stuff. Like it, we'll see. We'll see about that. But please go ahead. I stopped you from doing.
No. It's great. No, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to. If you come up with something, it's awesome. So that's what we're supposed to do with this thing, is give everybody as much information as they can for those people that do not know anything about demons. That's why we run this show. Or when you want to run stuff on the Imperium, and people don't know. There are people that just want to play the game. There are people that just want to play, and they want to roll dice and have fun and drink. There are also people that really get involved in the lore, and then sometimes they base their armies off lore. Like, for example, most people don't. For those that don't know, each demonic legion is divided into everybody. For those who don't know, the demonic legions are divided. They have a sacred number that they worship, that they just find mesmerizing. They're just fascinated, asphyxiated with this number. For example, Khorne is 8. They just have the example of 8 as being that the god of Khorne, because there's 8 towers, or there's 8 citadels around the Black Tower, I think, or something like that. That's how they come around with the 8 for the 8. But and they're just asphyxiated with that number. So in Khorne Legion, in Khorne lore, everything is in 8s. There's 8 blood legions. And then each blood legion has 8 cohorts. And in that cohort, there's 8 particular units of whatever that cohort is led by, whether it be led by a bloodthirster, whether it be led by a herald of Khorne. Everything is 8. Everything is 8. So even there, if you go even deeper into it, all of their names have either 8 letters or 8 syllables in it. How about that for some weird
That's interesting.
Yeah, basically what you can find when you print out 34 pages of lore on demons. So, but so a cohort could be led by a herald of Khorne, but it could have 2 units of flesh hounds. Or 8, but it stops at 8. They don't go to 9. Because they're fascinated with that. Now, in gameplay, yes, it would be really cool if their models would stop at their number, but it's not. But their fascination with the number 8 is just amazing. And then, so if you move on to Tzeentch, their sacred number is 9. Well, there's 9. There was 9, I think 9 parts of the crystal. On the Crystal Labyrinth, I believe, on that one. Don't quote me on that. But there's 9 legions of Tzeentch. Yeah. Each legion of 9 has led by either a demon prince or a herald. But there's 9 packs of demons inside each one, and all of nobody really knows what their names are. because they change all the time. So a demon of Zinch might go by this name by one day and then go by their name. So they don't really have like, because they're the changer of ways and they like to change their ways. So it's interesting on how like everything is so focused on their number. It's insane. So when you go to Nurgle, their sacred number 7. There's 7 plague legions. Each of the 7 plague legions has 7. What is it called? Seven Talibands. There's 7 Talibands in each of the seven legions, and in those 7 legions, you'll have 7 units, whether it be 7 plague bears, whether it be 7 units of 5 plague bears and 2 plague drones. It's all works out to that number. And Slaanesh is in their sacred number 6. There's 6 legions of excess. And then each 6 legions of excess has 6. I can't remember what the heck they call what is it they call after the 6. Go ahead.
Do you think that there's any coordination between them or Slaanesh's number being 6 and there being 6 Eldar gods?
I didn't know. Actually, I probably was, because I didn't know there were 6 Eldar gods.
Yeah. There's 6 Eldar gods, and then each one is a house. So like, there's the striking scorpion god, Karathas.
Okay.
His name is, and then
Kandras or
the Behemoth or whatever, the swooping hawks god. There's the warp spider god, the howling banshee god, and then the Azurai,
Dire Avengers.
The guy who's the Dire Avenger god is the main of the pantheon of them. But Slaanesh is, it's actually interesting that Slaanesh is 6. Also, another interesting point, have you ever seen the Dark Crystal? Like, it's not 40K related, but
that's like kind of like on the Labyrinth. I've seen Labyrinth, but I've not seen the Dark Crystal.
So you might want to watch that. So I think the Dark Crystal came out before 40K was a thing, but there's a race in the Dark Crystal, the bad guys. They're called the Skeksis. They're big bird people that worship a crystal and that cast magic, and they're evil, and their leader is called the Keeper of Secrets,
which is the highest form of Slaanesh demon.
Yeah, or
it's
the
interesting
demon. So it's
no Slaanesh demon.
The Keeper of Secrets is the Slaanesh?
Slaanesh, yes. Lord of Change is
interesting.
Keeper of Secrets is Lord of Change is your Zinch, is your big Zinch.
You're right.
Keeper of Secrets. Your Keeper of Secrets is Slaanesh.
Interesting. But yeah. Keep going.
Okay, going back to a little bit more things. Everything again on the numbers. Like, so if you look at Nurgles, again going back to a lot of their names are 7 letters or 7 syllables. You again, Slaanesh, they don't have everything in 6s, but they always have longer names. For example, they gave one of Slaanesh demons will use syllabate sounds such as Dryzilla or Slithering, while they want to be more ostentatious or flamboyant, so they'll take for a title such as Exquisite Matriarch of Agonizing Delights. That could be the name of one of their heralds. So they like to be the boisterous. They want to basically be the most boisterous of them all. So, but it's just the obsession with these numbers is one thing that I don't know if everybody kind of knows who've played the game know what their sacred numbers are, but I wanted to touch more on what made their how their numbers are all, and it's all like again 9 legions of Zinch, 9 legions, and each 9 legions there's 9 units and 9. Everything's broken down into all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. So you touched on like the demon legions and how they follow the rulings and the wills of their masters or the chaos gods. Now, through the 30K lore, the Horus Heresy, there is like human legions that went into the warp to follow these chaos beings as well. Are they beholden to the same rules and regulations as the demons? Do you happen to know?
I do not. I do not know about the whole. Yeah, as far as I covered with my thing, I did not cover anything besides what's in the 40K wars. Well, maybe I didn't go deep enough.
No, I'm not. Don't worry about going deep enough.
Yeah.
I was just curious
No.
on if like the World Eaters, if when they went into the warp and they basically pledged themselves to Khorne, if they if they every 10 group of guys fought until there were only 8, or something like that. If there was any chaos tie to the Space Marine legions that follow those chaos gods.
Oh, I have no. That's actually good. I have no idea if they followed that. If they followed their. Yeah, that's actually holy crap. I don't really know. Let's see what they. Nah, I'm just looking at the corn real quick. It does. I didn't really get into the Space Marine part side of it. I was just going on the demon side of it. So
that's
I'm
fine.
kind of like.
I'm not worried about it. But is there any other interesting nuggets or?
As far as like your hierarchy, you do have hierarchy. There is hierarchy in the demons. Your greater demons are obviously your greater demons, and then actually part of the greater demon is also forms the lesser demons. So you have your greater demons, which are your greater, which are basically like it's each legion is only led by one greater demon. So there's not like. So, for example, there's only 6 great unclean ones, or 7 great unclean ones. There's only 9 Lords of Change, because each legion is led by one greater demon, and then they have like and then if that legion is led by that, then it's a sub commander of the 9 other ones will be like your underlings. So like
it's interesting. So people that make armies of three greater demons, like 3 greater unclean ones, there's not really like a lore precedent for that. Like you would have 1 great unclean one in your army, maybe, but there's really only, like you said, so many that exist.
Right, because each legion is commanded again. It's a pile for every. It ranks in order. So basically, like you would have a Sloppity Bile Piper, he would be the next in line. So if you had, for example, they gave the example in the book of the Septus Legion for Nurgle. So that's 1 legion of it, but then there's 7 of the Talibans, and each one of the Talibans, which would be like you would think of this as an army organization. So you'd think of it being like a platoon would be like the legion, but then a squad would be led by like or maybe the Septus would be like a company. Then you would have a platoon led by a herald or a sloppy bile piper or a scrylepox scrivener. So that's kind of like their force organization built down into basically broken down in the ranks. And then they do have a lot of demons that are actually undivided. So they don't particularly serve a master. And those demons are like your soul grinders they're your soul grinders. For those who remember Chaos Furies, the little like winged creatures, they're actually in a list of subservient demons that are actually like slaves to the demons. While they don't particularly, although in the game you have to mark them, you have to give them a legion, but in reality those are all there's a couple other ones that are subservient. They're all the subservients. They're like your servants. They'd be like your peasants of the demon. They'd be like your peasants of the demon world, where they basically their goal is just to serve their master. That's all they do. So there's like five undivided units of them. One of them was the Furies. The other ones have your soul grinders, which are your where did I put that at? Sorry, I'm all unorganized.
Oh, take your time, man. Like
yeah, unaligned demon. There we go. You have astral specters, which are powerful entities that compose congealed psychic energy and warp stuff. When they manifest in the physical world, they take the shape of incorporeal specters, patches moving darkness, unnatural mist, boiling with flickering images, half-transparent figures that cast no shadow. And then there's called the Dispire, famished and tattered figures with hollow eye sockets and mouths frozen in endless silent screams. These pyres serve no single greater power. Their desire is only to bring sorrow and madness, and darkness clings around them. Then there's your Fury. The Fury is demonic beast of chaos undivided. Ancient lore suggests they are human servants of chaos that display a tepid attitude towards chaos as a whole, reject the patronage of any god whose service in their life is to, as a whole, is unremarkable, reborn in the warp as these beings, forever to soar the violent winds of the warp without a place. Soul Grinder. Your Soul Grinders are former demons of chaos that are now, in general, serve chaos undivided. They are dedicated to the Forge of Souls, an organization of your demonic runes, your demonic warp smiths and your rune smiths, which inspires a high rank. Oh man, I got my pages all. So basically, those are your four types of unaligned demons, which particularly don't serve a particular master.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. The Immaterium, or the warp, is a huge. I mean, essentially, it's primordial soup, because since there's no time, there's no place. Like, there's no physical anything, because nothing could have a placement. Now so if, for instance, the reason I'm sitting in my chair right now is because me, like Brandon, is in this spot at this time. Without time, we have no idea where I am, if I'm here, it would be like taking a grain of rice and throwing it in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and then then blindfolding yourself, jumping out of an airplane, and trying to find that same grain of rice. It's just near impossible. So it would be crazy to even fathom all these extra creatures, these unaligned creatures, and these gods. And did you find anything on what the warp actually, what these realms actually look like, or how they...
you mean as far as the realm of corn and the realm of...
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so we do, and we have the Fortress of Corn. It's basically a monument. I remember seeing a picture there. There was seven. Was there seven? There was a whole. I mean, I wish I had that poster. Can't remember what. There was a book that came with a poster that had all the realms of chaos, kind of like Slaaneash's area, and God, I can't remember where that post. I remember that came in some book. Well, I don't remember what edition it came in, but
looked like a kind of like a Candyland,
yeah,
except with
yeah, it looked like
blood
Candyland
and skulls.
Right, because it had the Slaanesh. Because in the realm of Slaanesh, there's 6 layers, and then there's 6. You can't say 7 levels of hell. You know what I'm saying? But there was in the Slaanesh there was 6 layers. In the Corn there was 8. There's 8 towers around the Fortress of Corn. There's 9 levels of 9 pyramids of magic, or 9 pyramids of magic for Tzeentch, and then there was 7 something in the Garden of Nurgle. So that's basically all I've been That's all I've been just going through with all of that. So
you're good.
And then there's the hierarchy. You have your greater demons, then you have your demon princes. Oh, kind of another nugget too. In order for a greater demon to exist in the material world, he actually has to possess a mortal. He actually has to. Yeah. That was one thing I did highlight. So, and then the greater demons also can project out some of the lesser. They can take the greater demons after they've materialized, before they materialize in the mortal realm, can actually still put part of themselves into the lesser demons. There's demonic beasts, which are kind of like your Seekers of Slaanesh, your Fleshhounds of Corn. These are all parts of actually a greater demon, part of the essence of a greater demon, that also came out too. But yes, in order for a greater demon to exist in the mortal realm, he has to possess a mortal. Otherwise they just sit and exist. They can form the demons outside of the rift. In the warp rift, they can send their minions because they don't need mortal hosts to exist. They just send part of themselves out in the form of a bloodletter, in the form of a plague bearer, in the form of a nurgling. But for the greater demon to exist in the material, they actually do have to possess a mortal being for themselves.
And isn't it true that that mortal being has to have some sort of psychic
Yes.
connection?
Psychic, yes. Yeah, it does have to have a psychic. Exactly the point. I was just going to get to that. That it does have to have some sort of psychic connection because everybody who is a psyker has to have some connection to the warp, whether it be a weird boy and a bunch of chanting orcs, and a weird boy's head exploding and blowing up all the orcs, and the demon just because I don't know if you remember 7th edition where like anybody had access to the demonology lore, where you could possess yourself and turn yourself into a grit, where you could turn yourself into, you just roll your 6 dice and didn't care, and you just turn your weird boy turns into or your astropath turns into a bloodthirster just because it was legal to do that.
Yeah, and then so that brings up an interesting question of, is there anything that you've seen lore wise that deals with the Chaos Gods and the Warp compared to either Necrons with Blackstone, Tau, or the Tyranids, because all three have a very anti-psychic lore background to them.
Like, not the Tyranids. The Tyranids are actually psychically, because the hive mind is actually in the Tyranids. Can actually, I did see something on the Tyranids that, because they're all, and the hive mind is actually connected via psychically to the warp itself.
Yes, but didn't the Tyranid lore that just came out with 9th is that Hive Kronos, the Hive fleet with that, since their synapse is talking over the warp frequency, it actually cancels out the chaos rifts from being able to open. They can't stabilize because of the interference, and there's it didn't work in Armageddon, but it can't stop the Imperium from doing it again. They're trying to lure Hive Fleet Kronos to the center of the
Great Rift,
the Great Rift, because they're going to try and close it by sending Tyranids into it. But Tyranids don't care about chaos. Like, they can't eat them. Just like you said earlier today, when a chaos demon dies, it just evaporates. It poops, like, gone.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no biomass there for the Tyranids to want to eat or munch on. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with the story there. On it's kind of like a rock and a hard place. There's nothing that Tyranids want out of the chaos demons,
because they just, again, because there's nothing for them to devour and to turn into their own existence.
Yeah, and it's another interesting thing is that the Necrons with Blackstone, like, Blackstone is the substance that the Necrons used and the Silent King used to fight the Old Ones because they were psychically attuned. Like, they used the warp. So with the returning of the Silent King with the new Necrons and 9th edition, if he comes back with some Blackstone, he could be another tool needed to stop chaos, because that stuff has already been lore proven to eliminate things in the warp, or to eliminate the presence of the warp. And also, since the Emperor is such a warp close being, they might be able to, like, Warpstone is like Space Onyx. It's do a barrel roll. But yeah, depending on where the Silent King pops up canonically in lore, he might be able to just like stop chaos, which is, I don't know why he'd want to do that, but it'd be a pretty interesting thing from their point of view too.
I think when they did the preview of the new Illuminor Xerath model, he had that piece of Blackstone on his carapace. I guess you have to call it a carapace now or whatever. And it's got that rule where, like, psychers within 9 inches like automatically suffer perils of warp for any doubles versus just double ones and double sixes. So I'm gonna throw this out there for you and maybe Chad to think about. This is like, what's going to happen to psychic powers in 9th edition? Is it going to be with this is supposed to be the psychic awakening, is Perils of Warp going to remain the same? Is it going to be more brutal? Is there going to be a difference? Is there going to be a huge change to the second phase, or do you think that they're going to keep the core rules of the same? Because right now, I feel that we haven't had a lot of psychicness in Psychic Awakening from the books, other than the Ritual of the Damned, which the Grey Knights got their stuff, and the Thousand Sons got their stuff, and the Tyranids got a little bit in, was it Blood of Bale? There really hasn't been a lot of psychic going on, other than, so is the next book, obviously we know the next book's Engine War. Is this going to be where they're going to start talking about the rift opening up more, or the rift closing a little bit more and why are the Admech and Knights busy trying to fend off the Chaos Knights with Chaos Demons? And then is it all going to lead up to Pariah, where it's going to start the whole, are they going to come out with all the Blackstone to basically shut down trying to close the Great Rift out?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like Archer just put on in chat, it's really actually telling, at least to me, to speculate where they want to go, at least in ninth. Like, GW has never 100% hit the mark between where they want the game to go and where it actually lands in any one of these editions, but they're getting a lot better in what they're doing. And if you look at what's supposed to be in this 9th edition Getting Started box, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 or 7 units, including named characters and character models and stuff. So 7 units in the Necron side, and there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 units in the Space Marine side, and 3 on each side are close combat oriented, which is something you've never seen in 40K. Close combat armies are I'm going to play Khorne, or I'm going to be bad at close combat. Orcs. I'm going to play a bunch of orcs, or I'm going to play Khorne, and other than that, there's not really a close combat presence. But, the new Astartes chainswords, the new box has those Storm Shield close combat, Vanguard
right,
Primaris Marines. And the Necrons have those new weird clawed close combat.
Yeah, the Seraptech Lords, I believe, is what they're called.
Yeah, it's
and then
really
and then we saw so many different that picture that was cleared up was how many different new Necron units did you count there, including the Silent King? There was amazingly how many new Necron units did you see? I mean, it's a total redo of almost the total redo of the entire army.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of new sculpts, but they also said that GW reserves the right, especially in 9th edition, to discontinue models. So I think right now is not a great time to buy Necron models if you want Necrons. Partially for a good reason of it looks like your line is getting revamped. Your new models look amazing, but your old models may not have rules. They're also saying that they're going to relook at Forge World, which makes those Shadow Specters sitting on my shelf now kind of scary to use, because they may not have rules. They may not exist in 9th edition.
I didn't even think about that. Gosh, I haven't seen anybody play those Shadow Specters with little prism rifles.
I don't think that they're going to be very good in the new 9th edition. Have you kept up with what they say 9th edition changes are going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I watched a couple. I support a channel called the Twisted Dice, and they did a whole 9th edition review for what they got from the Q. Did you watch the Q&A? I don't know if you watched the Q&A, but
I
did not watch. I did not watch the Q&A because I was at work, but they did a review of the Q&A, and there was a couple things that as the rule of 3. Obviously, few things that will bug me would be ninth, everybody having the same amount of CPs. I don't know, that kind of bugs me. It kind of doesn't, but I I want to see. I don't know. There's never ever going to be a perfect balance because there's always going to be loopholes in every edition since first edition. There's always been something that's been over the powerful, and whether it's going to be Necrons, that's good. Maybe the Xenos need to be on top, but it'd be nice to see Xenos on top for a little bit until. But I hope that they don't get the was it the seventh edition treatment where they were the first book out, were super good, and then they just fell off.
That happened in eighth too. Like, it didn't happen to Space Marines because everyone knows Space Marines are going to get 3 different updates during the life of an edition.
Right.
But
Death Guard
didn't. Death Guard were good when they came out, and then just kind of stagnated. And like,
it was the same thing that happened to Orcs in 6th edition. Orcs were the first book out in 6th, and they were really good, and then they just...
Yeah, you don't... Like, when it comes to editions of 40K, you don't want to be the first book out, and then you don't really want to be the last book out either, because you'll have a lot of good rules, but no time to actually play them.
Because it'll be about the 3-year mark when they want to... It'll be the 3-year mark when... I was thinking about this, too, because it's like for 2017... Like, I was going, my Facebook memories were playing for, I was just like playing at a local shop, and like May of 2017, I'm like, oh wow, because like June of 2017 is when 8th came out already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And I remember when 8th came out. It didn't seem like that long ago, but it's been 3 years.
And surprisingly enough, that everybody's gotten a codex. Somebody's got, Chaos Space Marines got a second codex, and Marines got a sort of Marine got supplements, so.
And it's lore related, and it has to deal with the warp. But during that Q&A, they were asked, GW was asked specifically about if with 9th edition we'll see a Primarch. And they said they can't say anything definitively, but I would save room for your Christmas presents, like for under the tree. So it leads people to believe they think that a Primarch's coming out, November, December time, that there'll be one new one. But do you have any, like, just pure speculation, who would you want? Like, who do you think's coming out of the warp into everyone's baskets?
I don't know. I mean, don't they already have the 30K model for Lionel Johnson?
Yeah, they do. I think they've got 30K models for almost all of the Primarch line.
So maybe I don't want it to be a loyalist because I don't want it to be one, but I think it will be. If I were to put money, if I would put money on it, I probably would like to. I would like to see Sanguinus come out, but that's just my personal.
The only one that's dead? Like you think they're gonna bring back a dead one instead of one that's still alive?
Yeah,
that would be interesting. So how do you think they'd go about that? If it is Sanguinus, do you think? And for anyone out there, we'll do a 30-second recap. So in the fight for Chaos Space Marines against the Emperor, where half of them go to Chaos, like quickly fast forward, Sanguinius is the Blood Angels Primarch, or the leader of the Blood Angels faction. He dies protecting the Emperor from Horus. So Horus being the emo bad boy of the renegade guys, the Chaos Space Marines.
The Luna Wolves, or
yeah, and so Sanguinius is, like, in all intents and purposes, that is a doornail. So bringing him back would be a big deal.
Well, wasn't Gilliman almost dead when Belisarius called and the Eldar brought him in Call and Eldrad brought him back to life?
Yeah. So he was dead, but like he's in stasis or whatever they use for that stupid word. Now,
okay. Frozen in time.
Yeah. So I think Lionel Johnson is also in stasis? Question mark. Not 100% on that one. Or he's hiding somewhere. I know Russ just like Lou Vega'd his way into the warp to go find somebody. Right, Archer, you're big on Space Wolf lore. Russ is out there like just like hunting his way through the warp. But he's still alive. Or at least, I don't know, he's projected still alive.
Although although it could be if you want to like it could be an Angron or Fulgrim one because there's been a lot of things with Angron, Emperor's Children, World Leaders getting their own books. So, but I wouldn't see them wanting to have 3 Demon Primarchs out before they have 2 Loyalist Primarchs out.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that
uh, they might bring out the Imperial Fist one, the
uh, Dorn,
Rogel Dorn. I mean, he'd have
Robo
his
Dorn.
hand cut off, but I mean, they fixed hands in Star Wars. They'll fix hands
Yeah,
in 40k.
yeah, yeah. But like I don't know. I think Sanguinius would be. I don't know how they would bring him back to life, but it would have to be some psychic channeling, maybe, or some spilling of some of the Emperor's blood. Maybe maybe they grabbed some Emperor's blood from his stasis body and dumped it on Sanguinius, and he becomes drinks some drinks some of this special chalice. They usually who's that sanguinary priest that has the red grail.
Oh,
So,
yeah, but isn't he like
Corbu-
he's like a weird
Corb-
vampire dude?
yeah, Corbulo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. But maybe he'll get some blood from the Emperor and bring him back. I don't know. It'd be nice to see Sanguinus back. Just, I don't know. Just my personal thing because he's like, I've always liked. If I was okay, so everybody who knows me personally knows that I don't really like the Imperium. But back in my old days, I did play like Blood Angels for a long time before I started hating the Imperium. So I've kind of like have a fondness for the Blood Angels before if I had to pick an faction, if I was forced at gunpoint and all the Xenos and Chaos armies were all gone off the shelves, and I was forced to play an Imperium army, I would probably play Blood Angels. So
And then Archer helped us out. It's Corbulo.
Corbulo, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And do you think like, because there's some in this whole like end of 8th, beginning of 9th psychic awakening thing, it looks like Chaos has pretty much torn a hole through the center of the universe or the known universe. Like there's some Space Marine places that are stranded on the other side of the warp. Like, I think isn't the main planet for the salamanders,
Nocturne,
Nocturne, is on the other side of the Chaos warp,
I believe it is.
which means they're okay. So if it looks like there's an orc place, and then there's Nocturne, and then there's an Eldar Prime world, and the Fenris is like right in the middle of the warp storm. Yeah, Fenris is like on the line. Okay, so maybe not as many Space Marine factions, because it looks like Nocturne's on the far side. It's on the good side. So is like the Imperial Fists, Ultramarines. All their planets seem pretty close on the one side. There's a lot of orcs on the other side. I didn't realize there's so many big orc holds. But,
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's hard for me to see that in chat because you probably got it up on screen, and I can't. Obviously, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For you.
yeah, it's very tiny for me. I'd have to like blow it up on. I'd have to try to blow it up, but it's easier for you. I mean, it's either gonna go like you said. It's probably gonna be that either Call or the Necrons are gonna use the Blackstone to try to close the rift up. I'm almost betting that's what it's gonna be. The Silent King is gonna come back. We already know he's gonna come back, and there's probably gonna be some Blackstone being used to stop psychic energies for a while. Which might actually change in the gameplay how the psychic phase even works in ninth.
They did say that there's not going to be a change to the fundamentals of the phase. There is going to be a change to Overwatch, and that they say is going to make Overwatch weaker. And so I don't know what they could do there, but
I mean, other than like Overwatch is 6, but 6. I mean, it's really Overwatch isn't that bad but only if it's really good for a few factions. But
I think the change that there is rumored is that each unit Overwatch will still be on 6s, but it will be once per phase. So if you could
fail your charge,
that unit still can't fire Overwatch against the next thing that's going in. So you have to like
Interesting.
choose if you're going to. You can always choose not to fire the Overwatch at the first unit to risk that they make it in or not. And if they don't make it in, you still can fire the Overwatch at the next unit, but you don't get both.
Interesting. But really, though, in your games, other than playing, just take Tau and Iron, anybody that Overwatch is not on sixes, just throw those armies out the door. All right. Has Overwatch like made or break anything for you in a game?
Um, I think it's a tool that some armies can build around right now. Uh, Under normal circumstances, no. I don't think that Overwatch is a big component of this game. But I think it is. It's more of a component than I think GW wants it to be. Like those Imperial Guard Flamer bots, those little tanks that they get, the Warhounds or not Warhounds. Uh,
The demolition vehicles.
yeah, those little demo vehicles. They explode on fours, and they've got like 2 regular flamers and a heavy flamer or a magma flamer on top.
Oh, the
So
Hellhounds? You mean like the regular? You mean like the regular,
yeah,
like Chimera? Not
yeah, they're
the
like they look
Hellhound.
like little Chimera chassis, but they're unmanned
Yeah.
flamer vehicles.
Oh, I've never seen those.
So they're like 60 points, and they come with 2 flamers and a heavy flamer, and they're 8 wounds on a T7 Chimera chassis, and they explode on fours, and you can't charge them because then you're eating, 2 flamers and a heavy flamer, just to turn
Unless you
them
want to charge
off.
out,
Yeah,
unless you want to charge outside of 8, but then
yeah.
you're
Then you're charging outside of 8, which is true, but they're just so point. Like the thing that makes them so ridiculous, I feel, is that they're so point efficient. Like for how little points they are, they can muck up your enemy line because they have to almost devoid. They have to dedicate more points than they're worth to dealing with it. Like even a squad of Orc Boys, which squad of 30 Orc Boys will mess it up. They'll like, yeah, it'll kill a couple getting into Overwatch, and then what's left will beat the crap out of it, and it'll explode and kill some more. But even in that case, like, you dedicated an entire round of close combat to killing a not very point heavy model that was able to eat up a couple orcs in Overwatch and exploding, and maybe even like from a board control perspective, push a squad of 30 Orc Boys away from whatever you wanted them to be at in the first place. So I think there could be, bringing it back full circle, there could be a couple things in Overwatch that can be tweaked and looked at. The other thing about flyers, they can fly off the board and come back now, which I think
I like that.
I like that. I like that trait too.
Especially when you can't, especially when your vehicles can't hover like Orc flyers, they can't hover. So kind of makes it. I mean, granted, they can just blow themselves up now, which is okay for stratagem, but I'd rather not blow it up if I don't want to. And
yeah. But I think it's gonna make things easier to run the flyer. But I think ultimately that makes the flyer less, like the floor gets lower. If we look at a floor and ceiling of flyers, like the ceiling of how good they could be, I think it's just easier to use them. The ceiling doesn't really go up at all. But the floor goes down because you're essentially flying off the board for a turn and coming back on the board the next turn. And that's a whole turn of shooting you're not doing with that flyer.
yeah, but for some flyers it doesn't matter. For like a bomber, for like your planes that just bomb, they've got such garbage guns anyways. You're not gonna really, you're doing all your damage in the movement phase anyways, and then
I would 100% agree. Other than they would have to make changes to the fact that you could only fire that bomb once per game. Then, right?
well, most people are only like have 2 bombs, so you can do it twice per game.
Twice per game. Okay.
But like in the rules right now as it is, you can physically drop both your payload on one unit. You can't like go 2 units. So like I could drop both of my burner bombs on one unit. I would resolve the hits or resolve the 4+, and then whatever model survive, I would resolve it again.
Gotcha.
So So you could drop your payload early and just be like, okay, well then. But now are they going to change boots on the ground then? Does boots on the ground gonna? How is that gonna? Is boots on the ground going to be taken off now because flyers can come back on and off the table? And,
I don't think I see that happening. I don't think they're going to change boots on the ground, but with the new way that CPs work, I don't think we're going to see a lot of troop choices anymore. Troop choices
yeah,
before were taken as a tax in order to get your CPs. Now that there's not that anymore, everyone's going to get a bunch of CPs. Why even take them? Like, what? Like,
only for objective secured if you really want to.
yeah, if you really need some objective secured, maybe. But like I play Eldar. If I don't have to bring Guardians, fuck
Yeah,
yeah. Like I am
yeah,
never bringing Guardians ever again because
yeah.
they don't
You
they
wouldn't
don't
even need
need
to
them.
bring you wouldn't even need to bring your tax of Rangers anymore, neither.
No, not at all. None of them.
Yeah.
But I think that Eldar are gonna get a real big hit too in ninth edition, with modifiers being capped at +1 or -1.
Yeah, that was one thing that was discussed on the other podcast I watched. Was like, okay, so like you're throwing away lightning fast reflexes. So it's like it's a stratagem you just throw away. I mean, how can you just physically throw that stratagem away? Is it going to change to where maybe now they have to reroll hit rolls? Because if you're already at -1 from like a flyer or a craft world, what do you need lightning fast reflexes for then?
Yeah, that's true. So coming in from chat, I agree that some armies do have good troop choices. Intercessors are good. Gene Stealer Cult are arguably really good troop choices, but my 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 okay. So Nick, so my challenge to you is that if you didn't have to bring Gene Stealer Cult troop choices in order to get CP, you got your CP already. Wouldn't you want to just bring more bombs of like aberrants and stuff that you're going to use the CP on? Like, just kill your opponent faster? I think that that's kind of, in my opinion, that's going to be where, like, 40k is going to get even more alpha strikey. Now, the one thing they got overpriced. Okay, maybe that is something that might be wrong. If aberrants got a super overpriced, then I would be.
But they said everything's changing. They said everything is changing though, point wise, aren't they?
Yeah, they are going to look at changing a lot of things point wise, which I hope means Riptides are going to get a boot up their butts because they need to
Well,
be repointed.
actually, they don't need to be repointed. They just need to fix the drone system.
Well, yeah, okay, I agree. Drone system is a problem, but the Tau army is one of the two armies I feel is going to benefit the most from only ever seeing a -1 to hit.
Yeah, because you could just
Yeah, they're a 4 up hitting army that innately has a +1 to hit built into their marker lights system. Like, it's not the first thing on the marker light system, but eventually, after you get 4 or 5 marker lights, five marker lights, you get the yes. And then chat is going to hit out the other one. Nick, guard. Guard is the other 4+ to hit army that if I can bring a whole Lehman Russ tank line and know at the very least they're hitting on 5s with the plasma commanders, and
they'll be hitting on 4s no less too because they'll only be -1.
yeah.
But then that circle that back around, and how does that gonna, that kind of like screws Alpha Legion over because it's like, okay, well I'm -1 to hit over 12, but now my asthma pestilence. Well, there's no point in taking that, like again,
100%.
like all three of your Eldari factions are just okay. Well, now what's the point of taking an Elotok Craft World and Rangers? Because Rangers had an inbuilt +1.
There is no benefit to any of that anymore.
Yeah,
I think they're going to change. I think the you'll see in the new codexes, because they did mention that the codexes, they got closer and closer to 9th edition, and you'll see that in any codex that's come out in the last 6 months, or especially in all these Psychic Awakening books. There's not like they wrote those books with
right.
9th edition in mind.
Which is why I think something which I don't know if a fundamental change, but like you notice how priest prayers have to go off the start of the battle round now.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to compare it to Sigmar but like how like for those who have played Sigmar, all the hero stuff is done before you even start moving.
Yep. I think if anything changes, they said that the phases themselves won't change, but I think you may see a change in the order of the phases. It's very likely that the psychic phase will happen before movement.
Movement. I called that. I called that like 8 months ago. That
And
I bet you that's gonna.
did you see the changes that they're thinking about for reserves and outflanking? I think it's really interesting.
No, I did not see that.
So this is coming from you know Revit post. So take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, from people and from news on talking about from people from GW, it's going to be a tiered system. So your anything can be put in reserves for one. Turn one, it can come in on your deployment edge. Turn two, it can come in on your deployment edge or any of the side edges. And turn three, it can come in from any table edge, including behind your opponent. And then after turn three, they're dead, just like usual.
But then okay, but the Flyers are must gonna be immune to that rule then, because obviously they're just gonna remember how in this edition currently everything has to be on the table by turn 3. So are Flyers gonna be immune to that if you fly off turn 2 and
Yeah,
you
I
know
think the flyer rule is going to be probably, in my opinion, similar to what it was when they could fly off and come back before. That they come back on the table edge that they left on, like
or they
anywhere
come
on
back
that
in your or they come
your
back out.
deployment. Yeah,
Yeah. But that's so. But okay, because it said you can put anything, so you can go back to null deployment. Are we going to go back to the null deployment days of 6th
I think
or 7th?
I think that would be if they're truly circling back to the if they're truly wanting a close combat oriented game or making close combat equally fair. What what could be better than null deploying and then coming in on the sides or behind your opponent with close combat units like mid to late game? You're giving up the objective game for the early part of the game, but you're not getting shot at, and you're gonna make these gun lines have to figure out how to protect themselves from enemies that are coming in danger close. I think I think it'll be a very interesting game of 40k uh, if they truly do that. If they allow null deploying to happen, and if they allow people to come in close and make those charges, I think close combat is going to be a real threat, and it's that may make troops and fodder units important to bring for that purpose alone, to be
Just
able to
to
just
block out. Yeah.
block out close combat. But
Well,
who
the
knows?
the other thing too is like what was I just had a thought too, and it was like I guess it's just I don't know. I mean, I like what they're going. Eighth is okay. I mean, this edition's okay. Yeah, but it's just like every other edition. It's got its problems, but like they said they're gonna fix soup. So obviously, are you? Oh, that's what I was talking about. Are you? The strategic reserves, is that going to be you can just put anything in there for free, or is it going to cost command points to put units in reserve? Now, but then again, you have armies that like Thousand Suns that can put a unit in there for a seed for a stratagem. You have demons that put their entire army. You put. Are they going to limit it to where you still have to have half? They're still going to limit.
I don't.
No, like you said, null deploy, or you know,
I don't. I
I'm
don't
okay
know.
with null. Yeah, because it's like I feel that they're invalidating a lot of stratagems in this game by the new edition. Like you said, if modifiers are going to be capped at -1, well, gee, lightning fast reflexes now. Oh, I mean, it's now like your venoms, which are like you put lightning fast reflexes on a venom, it's like super harder than hell. Super harder than hell to hit because it's already you got an inbuilt -1, and you throw that on there. And Harlequins are going to take the worst hit of them all.
Yeah, yeah. Harleys are gonna get a hit, but I don't. I don't think GW is gonna make a rule to like make things better for Harleys. I think Harleys is
No,
just kind of
no.
a
I'm just saying like it invalidates. The point is like invalidating stratagems
yeah, yeah. But
because
they're current eighth edition stratagems, and the ones we're talking about, like the the uh, the harder to hit lightning fast reflexes. The Eldar book came out before they even started writing ninth edition, so I wouldn't be surprised that they completely just invalidate a lot of that book. And hopefully, what I can hope as an Eldar player is that our codex is one of the earlier ones to get revisited.
Mid book, about a middle book. That way you've got a mid to early book.
Yeah, I think the later we get revisited as an Eldar player, the longer the dark period is going to be where I get to play with a bunch of models that are point effective because they'll go over everybody's points, especially with the new app, which I think will be great. But
Yeah.
I'll have point effective models, but no stratagems to use it on. And but you kind of touched on it earlier. What do you think about the new ally system?
Or where you're going to be like spending. Is that going to be keyword based again? Like, okay, so like I want to play AdMech, but I want to take a knight. So it's going to cost how many command? Is it going to be a CP? Based on they still are. From what I'm reading, they're still going to have detachments. You're still going to have detachments. They just don't grant CP. If it's
Yeah.
from what I gathered from that. So is it going to be the same thing like an auxiliary support detachment? Do I spend 1 CP to bring a knight? Is it still going to be keyword based on Imperium, or you know, is it going to be like with the addition of the second week? Like Grey Knights, they have to have every model in their army has to have the Brotherhood of Psychers to get their tides. So you can't. I mean, other than like you can bring in like the Inquisition for free, or same thing with the Angels of Death. Like you bring an assassin and you lose Angels of Death. So it'll be. I'm just wondering to see if like orcs can take somebody to ally with some chaos. Okay, I could be happy with that. But do I get? We going to get command points on being battle forged, or is battle forged going to be a thing of the past where like Taudar was a thing where it was just town hell?
Yeah, I think that Xenos has always been kind of gotten the poopy end of the stick when it comes to allies. It's not like Imperium or in some ways Chaos where you can kind of mix and match and soup it up a little bit. But I don't know, it is what it is. It's still pretty early to see how the nitty gritty of the rules shakes out, but
I mean, I'm not saying I'm looking. I'm not looking. The only things that just kind of like is the rule of three still going to be in place? That was that mentioned in the Q
oh,
and A.
I hope so. I don't know if it was mentioned, but I really hope so.
What about characters that generate CPs like Abaddon, Gilliman? Those characters now are at a prime because
Yeah,
if everybody's got 15 CPs, well, now I've got Gilliman. Now I've got 18 CPs.
yeah.
Boom. And then what about CP regen? Is that going to be a thing again? So are your armies that can regenerate CPs better than, is that going to, are you going to, the confinements of command are still going to be, or was it limits of command a thing where they can still be like, okay, you only regenerate one per battle round? So those are things that like, I like the fixed CPs for armies like, custodes because, well, they need them. You're not taking custodes mixed with guard just to give you your extra command points. You can do everything with it. Or your Imperial Knights where you need your Loyal 32 or your Rusty 17 to, but on the reverse side of it, what about Red Corsairs? Like they generate extra command points based on having extra squads of Chaos Space Marines. Well, now if detachments don't grant extra CPs, what's happening with that?
Yeah, I think that they'll find some way of trying to make it fluffy, especially with the close combat armies. I think close combat armies are going to get a buff almost across the board.
Well, I think there's going to be a stratagem that's going to turn off Overwatch. I think there's going to be a core stratagem. I'm going to call it right now.
Why?
There's going to be a core stratagem in the core book that it'll be 2 or 3 CPs that will allow you to shut Overwatch off for 1 unit. So you'll play the stratagem, and you'll be able to turn Overwatch. They won't be able to Overwatch that unit.
Yeah, that's a change that I think could happen. The change I think should happen, and you touched on it earlier. I think drones should only be able to be used for the units that they're brought with.
Cool. But what if you buy a unit of drones?
But I think that you attach it to another unit, and that's the unit it's used for. So
You could remove them from a fast attack slot because they're normally a fast slot when you don't buy the attached drones.
I just say that like if I bought a unit of drones, I should have to in the beginning of the game declare who those drones are for. and then they can make that save for that unit, which would mean that you could still have the same number of drones, but if you're running 3 Riptides, you have to designate which drones go to which Riptide, and then if I shoot that one Riptide enough and I kill its drones, I can kill that Riptide. And then I could shoot the other Riptide until its drones are dead, and then I kill that Riptide. It would give you some amount of progression instead of having to go through all of the drones before you can touch any of the Riptides.
Or there should be a radius on drones, where a drone's only within 3 inches of a model. Because right now you could string a unit of drones 12 inches out and pull the 12th drone furthest away from the unit.
Oh, yeah. You just do it based on the model distance from the unit,
yeah.
Not the unit's distance from the model. That might have precedent because they're already talking about close combat and stuff being based on model to model distance instead of base to base distance.
Like right, because they talked about Carnifexes fighting on the second levels.
Yep. And I think Carnifexes are going to be really good. I think they're one of the units that got 2 thumbs up in 9th edition because they said monsters are getting I have no idea. Sorry. Nick Bowers just posted something and it got flagged for inappropriate words, and I have no idea why. Mechanicum was flagged. But
well, it's because
But because it has cum in it. Oh no. But sorry, side note. But they said monsters will be able to fire into close combat like tanks will be able to fire into close combat, which means I'm going to take my Carnifex, I'm going to give him +1 to hit and -1 to be hit against as his 2 upgrades, and on each of those 4 arms, I'm going to put a 6-shot strength 5 gun. And I'm
you're devout.
You're going to have close combat, and then
you're going to have 3 of them.
Yeah.
You're going to run a brood of 3 of them.
Yeah, and then I'm running 60 shots into close combat, and I'm shooting it in close combat. Like,
unless there's a penalty in melee. See, that's the other thing too. Is there going to be a penalty for firing in melee? Is there going to be a only certain type of weapons can fire into melee? I mean, are you going to fire if your Layman Rust tank is being surrounded by Gretchen? Are you going to fire your big battle cannon? In that you can't. You're not trying to say it's like are only going to be certain weapon profiles like assault weapons or pistol weapons or assault weapons, or maybe like certain weapons can only be shot at in the units without the blast, because that's going to be the new keyword is blast weapons. Maybe blast weapons can't be fired in melee.
Maybe,
but obviously, maybe not devour. But obviously you'll have your devours. But
do you think with leaning towards maybe they make melee better and they're bringing out blast weapons, do you think as an orc player hordes are going to be more dangerous to bring? Like, I haven't seen rules on blast weapons yet, but
right. So, it depends on, are they going to define what a horde is?
Yeah.
So is a horde going to be 15 models? Well, then I'm just going to take 14. So now you have to randomize. So your battle cannon, instead of getting 12 shots at maximum, now you actually have to roll your 2d6, which could be 2. So I'll take 14 models instead of 15. Are they going to define what a horde is?
Yeah. It's legit. There's going to be people that do that they will maximize the benefits of any rule that they bring up.
I mean, yeah, okay. I'm scared as an orc player because it's like, yeah, I'm scared of like those. The battle cannons on Layman Rust tanks are golden. They are solid gold. Boom, you're getting 2d6 shots. Typically, you're rerolling 1s, or you get to reroll the dice with a number of shots. I mean, like, what's going to define as a horde? Like, all right, is it 20 models going to be a horde? Because how many units really can be over? I'm thinking, like, how many models can be? What's going to classify as a horde? Is it going to be over 15? Is it going to be over 10? Obviously, it can't be 10. It's got to be something more than 15. I would assume it's going to be more than 15. Is it going to be 20? Well, that's great. Then I'll just take 19, guy. I'll just take 19. And then if I need to, I'll mob up another I'll mob up another 10 later. I'll keep another unit of 10 in the back and mob them up later when I lose casualties.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I want, as much as I love orcs as much, they need to be a melee army versus. It's so bad that they are a better shooting army in this edition than they are a melee army, and they hit on fives. And they hit on fives, and they're a better shooting army than they are a melee army, and it upsets me because they've always been such a notorious melee army. I would like to see them, if Marine chainswords are going to get a boost. I want to see an orc choppa get a boost because a chainsword to a Marine is about as big as a choppa is on an orc.
Yeah, they did say though that I think the upgraded chainswords are just Primaris only.
Oh, so well, yeah, but who's going to be? Honestly, I mean, to be honest, how many people are going to take tactical?
Yeah,
How many people
yes,
still take tactical Marines?
I agree that they're still tiptoeing around this. You can play whatever you want, but buy our new stuff. Kind of.
Yeah, because we made it. And did you see those new Devastators or Primaris Devastators or whatever they're going to be with a 3-man squad in the back on that hill?
Yeah, they look good. The new bikes, the Primaris bikes look nice.
Yeah,
It's
the range is, and it's just, but it's like, as much as it's sad, but it's the way that they're a business. They still need to make money, and the Marines are still the fanboys of the company, and people are still going to buy it. As much as people are going to bitch about the price, bitch about this, bitch about that, people are still going to buy that stuff because they're still going to buy it.
yeah, yeah. So, who do you think? Like it was just brought up. Nick in the comment section just brought up Primaris Ravenweek bike armies. What kind of, like, just looking at the Space Marines by themselves, from the new model line, which factions of Space Marines do you think benefit the best from those models? I
Well, go ahead. You go first. You go first.
I think there's a lot of volition to what Nick just said. With if I'm looking at the Devastators with plasma weapons and Primaris bikers, I mean, that screams Green Wing. That screams Raven Wing bikers with Green Wing, Dark Angel, plasma cannons.
Yeah, with Weapons of the Dark Age. Well, I'm gonna throw something different at you though. I'm gonna throw White Scars at you.
Okay, that's not hateful. That
I'm gonna throw White Scars at you because though their chapter tactic is bikers units can, and their whole army can advance and charge, but then biker models can still fall back and charge again. So
yeah,
they're a lot of. I bet you're gonna see a lot of White Scar, and then so everything's kind of being written in ninth. Well, I think a lot of these armies now are going to be getting into their assault doctrines a lot quicker now, because like you get for example, Space Wolves, they get their extra hit in the assault doctrine. It doesn't start till turn 3. So now if your tactical reserves, you can keep that. You can keep your melee units off the table till turn 3 and bring them in wherever you want to now. So now you're already in your assault doctrine, granting your extra hits. So I think, and then so that's going to benefit your Black Templars. That's going to benefit your White Scars, and it's going to benefit your Blood Angels, and it's going to benefit your Space Wolves, all 4 of which have Assault Doctrine, Super Doctrines.
So, what do you think about that? If null deployment is a thing, null deploying your White Scar entire biker army, because you don't need troops anymore to get your CPs. It's all just either Ravenwing or, like you said, White Scar bikes, all null deployed, turn 2, coming in the sides, charge, boom, 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 and just eating everything. That'd be crazy.
But you could go back. There was a game back in, was it LVO or Nova, where one guy null deployed, and one guy had the entire crew surrounded the entire table, so they couldn't even come in. Yeah. So is that going to be another thing where I can just jump 80, I can just take 90 grots and just stretch them all the way out. And if you're null deploying, I'm going to stretch my 90 grots out to one side, so I'm going to force you to come in. Is there going to be a minimum distance you have to be away from? It seems like the 9-inch things, if that's not going to be changing the fundamentals of the game, the 9-inch thing seems to be
pretty standard at this point.
Right. So, I mean, you have the stratagems for sixes and threes for certain factions, but is that going to be? So, I'm just going to put my Gretchen, 8.5 inches away from the table edge. String. If you're null deploy, then do you auto lose because you can't bring a single model in, and at turn 3 you're dead? That's not even fun of it. That's not even fun of the game. So, I think something will have to be done to eliminate that part of it because what would prevent somebody from just doing that? It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we'll see the way that missions are being written in Psychic Awakening and even Eighth Edition compared to Seventh. It's much more of an objective game now. Like even with
Right.
the cards, and I've never really liked playing with the cards, but
Because you could
like
have a bad draw.
yeah, it just adds another level of like complexity randomness that you have no control over. But I think objectives, if they keep going in that way, that objectives are even going to get more important, and close combat is even more important because everyone's fighting over all these objectives. That, uh, like, some of this stuff is going to get real interesting. It's going to get a real full board kind of game, long term game, instead of just, oh, you alpha strike me turn one, your guy's got -4 to hit, I can't do anything. Good game. Like, you're done.
Well, right. I mean, there is that needs to be fixed. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed too. But again, we bring back Tau. Tau needs a that crap just needs to be fixed. And I'm sorry for all the Tau players in chat. We're gonna watch on YouTube, and I mean, they're just so good. I mean, if there was tournaments being played, I don't know. There was the Alamo GT that got played. I don't remember who took first place in that, but I know there was a GT played in San Antonio. I think a couple weeks ago. Um,
I I mean, I don't put a whole lot of stock in. I don't know who's showing up to those. Like, I don't know if they're gonna be a if a GT right now is gonna be a good representation of what is actually really good in the meta, because even if it's just the diehard players showing up to those, it's just like the top 1% of the top 1% churning its own
mhm.
meta out. And then as soon as you go to your, say, Michigan GT in October, when hopefully a lot of this stuff is completely died down, you're going to get a flood of gamers bringing all sorts of armies, and it may just completely change what the whole meta is of all of it.
Right. So speculation. When do you suspect the new? When do you think the new edition is going to be released? I think September.
Okay, so I think you are sadly very close to being right, and that is going to mean that the Michigan GT in October
We'll
is going
probably
to
have
get
to play.
rocked. Like, it's going to be, it's either going to have the choice of we're going to be playing ninth edition rules, good luck guys, or it's going to be we're still playing 8th edition, but no one's going to want to still play 8th edition if ninth edition is out. It
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they still got the 3 book. I mean, they still have what Engine Wars coming out next week, and then they'll probably unless they're going to do Bam Bam, the 3 books really super fast to get this out by August. I bet you. I just think September is a good.
Yeah, I would say you're right. I think if from a marketing standpoint, if I'm putting on my company hat, September October puts it out long enough ahead of Christmas buying season for to hopefully market to the people that are going to buy a starter set as a Christmas present. Like, because for people that play your game already, they're probably not going to purchase a starter set, no matter how good the models are, unless you play Necrons. I think if you
Yeah.
play
Oh
Necrons
yeah.
in that starter set, find
Yeah.
someone who plays Space Marines and split it with them
Oh
because
yeah. You're getting a deal, and you're getting all those new models.
yeah, it's gonna be
Well, I mean,
awesome.
even like for me, I don't play either one of those factions, but I might buy a starter box anyways and just get the core rules
Well,
if
the
they're going
rules
to
are
be in it.
free.
Oh, okay. So then I don't have to buy a box then.
Yeah, the rules will be free, and then the app will have whenever you buy a codex, you'll get the free digital version for the app. Is what they said will come out. So it'll be nice to just buy your codex in paper, support your local stores, and then have just take your phone to every tournament and then have all of your codexes and
But
everything you need
but
right there.
some events don't allow phone code. Like Adepticon specifically said that they did not allow phone codexes. You actually had to have like your typical code. You had to have the actual printed material.
Now, do you think, like, why do you think that is? Do you think it because GW didn't have a sanctioned GW app at that point?
That could be. It could be.
Because, yeah,
It very well could be that, and there could. I don't know the technical side of it, but maybe you can manipulate something in your. Somebody could
maybe,
manipulate
yeah, maybe,
because you were talking before about manipulating a dice app,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So when it's all just coding and stuff like that in your phone, so who's saying you can? I'm going to change the wording on this stratagem. I don't even know the mechanics behind that. Okay, but like if you can manipulate a dice app, you can manipulate a little screenshot, a page in your codex with some kind of file editor, and say, oh well, it's right here, and here's my stratagem to this player that doesn't know anything. Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah,
And
maybe.
like the other thing too is like I didn't watch the Q&A as well. Is like are all the they basically all the current books and the current FAQs are still going to be legit.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not
All the
until
yeah.
until they till they go in to recycle your book.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So
Because I was like,
there'll be no indexes. There'll be no there's they said there's no internal rules changes to the core rules, so much so that every codex and every update to the Psychic Awakening will still be viable for the game. Is it going to be competitive? Probably not. But is it going to be playable? Yes.
and then like, so I don't know if you noticed, but like you can go visit. I think there is going to be indexes, but I think they're going to be indexes of weapons and point changes.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because there will be points changes.
So, and like you can view shipping manifests. You can go find shipping manifests. So I was able to find there was a shipping manifest coming from China that had crates of books, and there was like 4 books coming on a boat from China. So I'm wondering if those were like 4 indexes of weapons. Because if you said there's gonna be no changes to the core rules, I wonder if there's gonna be 4 like weapon and point, and you're gonna have index Xeno weaponry or like how we had the in Chapter Proof 2019 we had the Minotaurium field manual.
Yeah, yeah,
I wonder if they're gonna have like a breakdown of like Minotaurium field manual for Chaos, Xenos, and Imperium stuff, just with point changes and weapon changes.
that would be a nightmare from like a GT like judge perspective to try and figure out how everyone made their list and if their list is still viable or valid at all.
So, and like I said, you can view shipping. You can't see what the actual names are, but you can go to look at international shipping manifests and see what's coming on boats from China.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, do we have anything? We went on a real rant,
Yeah,
which I
yeah, we
think
did.
is awesome and great. But do we have anything you want to touch on for the chaos and the warp to bring it back to?
I would just say that I would I would just say that demons themselves. We'll talk about their army. A lot of demon players like to not play, strictly one god. They like to mix it up. You get benefits, but I would just say that demons are probably going to be either they're going to be really powerful in the next with the, or they're going to be taking a back seat. Maybe you might have some new summoning rules, or I just want to say that I've always loved Slanesh demons from ever since fantasy. Warhammer Fantasy. I've always been a Slanesh demon fan. So if I had to pick one favorite, I will always pick Slanesh. I do paint a little bit. I do have some Nurgle stuff painted, but I do have my personal favorite is Slanesh just because of the model. I like the model range of it myself. But demons, I just feel that you have as a player, if you're just going to collect demon army, read what you like. There's so much lore on demons. You want to be corn bloodthirsty. You want to cast a lot of magic. You want to have cool names like Spoilpox Scrivener or Sloppy Biopiper. Who would not want to have a cool name like that? Cool model with that name in their army. But as far as a person you want to start collecting your demons with, take some time, read all about it, and enjoy. Figure out which god suits you, and there's a great model line for each one of the demons. Demonettes the new fiends are fantastic looking models. The new flesh hounds of Khorne, very fantastic newly redesigned models. The Bloodthirster kit, a really great kit, and just have some fun with the demons and take some time to actually explore why when we went through why they believe in the number 8, 7, 6, and 9, and theme your armies around then. I've always liked to theme I've always loved to theme my demon armies when I was playing them around the sacred number. Yeah, it's not competitive, but it's always fun to just do a number and stick with what they've got.
Yeah, interesting. And if anyone is gonna want to go into lore, you said you got some of your lore information today off of the Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Yeah, there's literally just click on the first link of Wikipedia, and it was a 34 page. Well, it printed out the 34 single sheets of paper, and there's lore. There's actually lore from Wikipedia. There's lore from. I didn't click into when you mentioned about the Horus Heresy, there is a Horus Heresy link on it. I just was more clicked on the 40K lore, but yeah, there's information, on demon organizations, the designs of the 7 levels of the 7 levels of Nurgle, the 6 levels of Slaanesh, and each level in the realm of Slaanesh has a different pain to it. This is the torment, the ecstasy chain, the ecstasy level. When I say level, I don't mean like there's actually elevators, to take you to the level.
It's all relative.
Yeah. There's aisles of there's, towers of magic, 9 towers of magic. There's your 8 citadels of 8 towers of blood next to the main tower in the Fortress of Khorne. So each one has its own different meaning to it. So take some time, enjoy. There is, I think, more than the Space Marines, and there is really a lot of lore in the Chaos Demon because it's creative because it's in a universe that we can't see. I mean, I haven't been to the warp. I haven't seen it. So, and only as you mentioned earlier, that the psychic, only people that are tuned to the psychic can really have some sort of connection to what's going in there. So yeah. That's kind of what I was just want to go with is like explore your 7th level of the Garden of Nurgle, or focus your army on a particular blood cohort of Khorne. Everything's in there. And it's always a good. The basic of this of the lore show is just to get you excited about playing them, not because they have awesome rules and really cheap models. And the excitement of this show is here to get you pumped up and say, hey, look, I want to play a Slaanesh army, and I want to know more about them, what they do, rather than just having the models on the table and rolling dice. This is what these shows are for, is for the people in chat and people on YouTube and Twitch to get more in depth and maybe bring in the hobby back, bringing the hobby of each one of these shows back.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And the foundation of being able to even do this stuff is because of the viewers that help out. So as we're kind of getting towards the end, there were 3. I like to shout out the viewers that followed or subscribed during our show, because I don't necessarily am able to catch that while we're talking, but Archon Prankster, PMA Voider 1, and Guyver 074 all followed during our discussion on lore. So thank you guys. You rock. Without you,
yes, thank you to Brandon for doing the technical side of this. You really make these shows really happening.
It's a team effort now. We got a bunch of people doing it. It's not just me.
Well, I know, but thanking you for today.
Oh, well, thank you. And if you're catching this on YouTube, we would love you to hit the subscribe button. And if you wanted to talk to us live while we're talking, we're on Twitch. If you're watching us now on Twitch, you know that. but the schedule for our shows is below. We've got Lore Linguist, which hits the lore and hobby side of things on Fridays. We've got the Competitive Corner, which is points driven, competitive game for 40K and maybe Age of Sigmar in the future, who knows. And that will be picking up now more than tournaments. They're going to start happening. Competitive Corner can start covering that information as well. And then we have our main show, Hobby Time, which is a little bit of a culmination of everything: painting to hobbying to display cases to display boards, all talked about during Hobby Time. And that's a Saturday show. So we'd love to have you to
And don't forget about our
follow.
merchandise store.
Oh yeah, there's a merch store if you want to get swagged out in Team Bad Decisions gear. Team Bad Decisions
Dice.
mugs, bean bags, anything about that. But hope you guys are all staying safe, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, and be safe. And hopefully soon you guys can start rolling some dice, and even social distancing. I don't, it's hard to social distance this game,
Yeah.
because. But you know what? Just stay safe and have fun. Roll some dice. Make some and always make some bad decisions. Because you know what? Life is full of bad decisions. Just make sure you live with your bad decisions.
Bye.
Later, everybody. Well, that was a pretty good.